All right, everyone. So this is going to be part 2 of chapter 12. So if you go back all the way up to our sections, this is where we're going to be discussing personality and health, lifestyle, health, and well-being. So we're going to discuss the personality types. And then in section 5, we're just going to look at help defeating and help promoting behaviors for happiness and well-being. So let's get into this. So with our personality types, you probably know type A and type B. There we are. We don't have much left, so that'll work. But recently, they've actually kind of structured off and found 4 personality types. And these are specific in relating to health behaviors and stress specifically as well. Sorry, losing my voice again. So let's get into type A personalities. So these are the very aggressive people. They have strict deadlines, and they have a really good drive. So these are the people who are always succeeding, who are always top of the class. But one downside of people who have type A personality is that they tend to be angry, workaholics. They tend to distrust people, and they tend to have hostile, see, what's a good phrase? Hostile interactions with others when it comes to trying to meet those deadlines and succeed. So, what I'm going to do is list off a couple pros and then a couple of cons of being type A. These are multitaskers, goal-driven, perfectionists, energetic, practical. So those are all really good qualities to have. They can balance tasks very well. But on the con side, they also tend to be overachievers, anxious, easily stressed, and impatient. So let's focus in on that stress part. Due to that, the reason why people who are type A, they also tend to be the highest at risk for heart disease. So with type B, though, the type B is seen as kind of the opposite. So these are the people you find that are super laid back. They all they seem to do is kind of relax and chill. They stop and smell the roses, if you want to think of it that way. They hardly ever seem stressed. They hardly ever seem stressed. So they are at the lowest risk factor for stress. So a couple pros for type B are they are realistic, easygoing, uncompetitive, charismatic. They easily adapt to new situations. But cons of that would be that they're unmotivated. They tend to be complacent. They tend to be overly casual, and they tend to procrastinate. So then moving on to the type C personality characteristics. So these are the new ones. So type Cs are also perfectionist, but their perfectionism is not seen like in type A with being aggressive or ambitious or competitive. Conversely, people who are type C are cautious, serious, sensitive to criticism, excuse me, and they tend to repress emotions. So they tend to be more emotionally repressed. These are the people that you almost never see get angry. They almost come across as they don't care about anything. Not like type B where they're just going with the flow. They just almost seem apathetic. So they also are not very assertive. They're people pleasers. And then finally, finishing up, we have our type B personality. Oh, let me go ahead and highlight the key points of this. There we go. So finishing up with type D, these people who are type B tend to be like way worse than type A. They are always stressed out. They're always hostile and they're always worried and intense. So they are overthinkers. They have a hard time expressing themselves with other people. So they don't find it easy to open up to others. They prefer just to do their own thing, and they usually show the most negative emotions. So I'll throw this up here. Get my red. By negative emotions, I mean anger. Oh. These are very tense individuals. They're almost like type A to the 100%. So they don't type D are not seen as ambitious. They are just angry, hostile people. So, and these, since this C and D are way newer, they are shown to be the most at risk for heart problems, high blood pressure, and also depression. There we go. And it's thought that it's a combination of constantly feeling those negative emotions, the tense, being hostile, being angry, kind of tied with the fact that they tend to not want to share a lot with others. They tend to bottle their emotions and not talk to others about anything. So one key thing we also need to discuss is this idea of learned helplessness. So imagine that you're taking a class, and no matter what you do, get my whiteboard up. So I'm going to put my example in yellow. So you're taking a class that you cannot seem to pass, no matter how hard you try. You may find at first you try different ways of studying, but and you may actually keep up with this. You try the whole semester trying to pass the class the whole semester, but some people may find themselves giving up. So this passive response that you face sorry about that. So this passive response, the fact that you find yourself trying to give up and not do anything, is thought to be seen as learned helplessness. And so I'm going to dive a little bit further in depth with this. So it's a passive response to certain stressors. So for example, the class. Based on exposure to previous uncontrolled negative. Move this on the way. Negative events. So hold on 1 second. Let me try and see if I can. There we go. Sorry about that. So it was actually first identified, and don't worry about needing to know when it was first identified. I just offer this as an example to kind of further understand exactly what I mean by that definition. When they would, they classically condition, go back to chapter 6 for a review of that, dogs to expect a electric shock after hearing a certain tone. Obviously, it goes without saying the study is not allowed to be done anymore, and it was done early in the mid-20th century. So the dogs were then later placed in this box that had 2 chambers. So imagine it. So my drawing skills are rusty. So 2 chambers. You got 2 boxes. Oh, this is awful. So they were in these 2 chambers that was separated by a barrier. And so they could jump that barrier. So this is the barrier. So it's hard to, I'm really bad at drawing. So like a little block where they could jump to avoid the shock. So they could leave this box to go to that box and avoid the shock. So they'd get shocked here. So they found after a while with some dogs that they after a while they would just not even try jumping the barrier. They wouldn't even try to escape the shock. So they gave up essentially. So that passive response is the dog's doing nothing to avoid the shock. The shock being the stressors. Due to the fact that they previously could not control the shock before. So being put in this room with the barrier, they could avoid it, but they developed this kind of there's nothing I can do attitude. You may see that with that example that I used in the class about a class. So you're taking the class and nothing works, no matter how hard you try. So you eventually decide, well, who cares? Who gives a flip? So your response is just to do nothing due to previous situations, these uncontrolled negative events. So there we are. So you can almost think of it as related to, get a different color. To people who have an external locus of control. So, and it's actually been found that people who feel that they have no control in their environment they are more prone to this learned helplessness because they feel like they can't do anything to change their environment, so why try? So it is somewhat related to that as well. And that actually might help you a little bit in keeping that separated. So let's get, let me actually leave that up for a moment, let y'all look over it. Okay. Takes a while to load. There we are. All right. And then our final personality type. So learned helplessness is related to personality types as well, locus of control specifically. But we also have what's known as the hardy personality. So these people who have the hardy personality have the 3 C's. I'll highlight each. They are people who have a sense of personal commitment or responsibility. So these are people who, when they're getting their degrees, they're like, I have a personal commitment. No matter what I do, nothing is going to stand in my way to earn this degree. It's a sense, let me change color. You could think of it as a sense of responsibility. They perceive that they have control over their life, so they usually have an internal locus of control, meaning that their environment is not what matters. It's they're the ones in charge of their life. They're their own person doing whatever it is they need to do to get things done. So when they succeed, it's because they worked hard to succeed, not because of luck or circumstance. And then final C is the idea of challenge. So they see life as a challenge, not a threat. So for example, when they come across like, let's go back to our previous video, the public speaking example I used. People who have a hardy personality would not see that as a threat, like, oh, I'm terrible at public speaking, I'm going to do horrible at this. They would see it as, well, I'm not good at public speaking, but this is a moment for me to become better at public speaking. This is a challenge for me, not something that might hurt me. So a couple of, there we go, a couple of things that are found with people with hardy personality. They seem to be resistant to stress, and that's due to their positive worldview. They are, see, so by positive worldview, I mean optimists. They look on the bright side. They focus or use more problem-focused coping, which, if you recall back, they all try to alter their environment. To solve the issue of the stress. They have higher levels of personal satisfaction with their work. That's usually due to the idea of control. Because they have an internal locus of control, they feel they have control over their life. Their personal satisfaction is due to things they felt they have done to make themselves better. And they have a greater immune response to bacteria because stress is very much related to health. More stress, more sick you get. That's our hardy personality. So let's do a quick review. So actually, let's hold off on this because this needs to go right there. So we're not going to do a review. I messed up. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about this graph, but this is just the breakdown of leading causes of death, heart disease, all other causes is lumped together, but let's look at this. Heart disease, cancer. Heart disease is very much tied to stress. So if we go all the way back to, there we go, our type A personality, originally thought to be a risk factor for heart disease. Type D, more at risk for heart problems. So it's possible, unfortunately, some heart disease is tied to stress. Obviously, there are other factors involved, but we're going to only talk about the stress part right now. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time. I don't need you to know the STIs, originally known as STDs, but I'm just going to let you read over these for a moment, and you can see these in our PowerPoints as well. Mostly, I want to talk about health promoting behaviors. So, physical activity, obviously. I think it's 30 to 90 minutes a week. So, space that out. 30 minutes 3 times a week is about moderate exercise. So, it has been found to help promote psychological and brain functioning, releases endorphins. Endorphins make you feel good. Eating right, obviously, is really good. So one key thing that your book recommends is don't think of it as good food or bad food, but just overall moderation and healthy eating habits. So, obviously, you're allowed treats, indulgences, ice cream on the occasion, not just eating ice cream every single day. And then finally, getting enough sleep at night. Obviously, that's very important as well. So it's very important. As you recall, way back when, to our chapter 4, all the problems of lack of sleep can cause, and all the things that sleep helps do. So all right, so let's do this review. So which of the following is not a health promoting behavior? Well, people who have hearty personalities, and 2, if you've read your book, you'll know that they perceive and read your book and let's do this PowerPoint, obviously. They tend to have the least health problems. So when they view their stressors as challenges rather than threats, that's very beneficial. Perceiving events as controllable, that's very much tied to problem-focused coping, which is a better way of coping than emotion-focused coping when possible, obviously. And then engaging in problem-focused coping, that's a to be as well. So relying on exclusively one defense mechanism for coping, it's not a health promoting behavior by any means. Don't worry about this one. I don't really go over the STIs, but I just left it in there for information in case you were curious. So which of the following people would be most likely to report being happiest? Hafia, who is extremely wealthy, has a few close friends, focuses on negative experiences. Sam is moderately wealthy, optimistic, adapts well to negative events. Austin is moderately wealthy, optimistic, and lives in a war-torn nation. And then all of these would report negative. Well, let's think about this. B. For further information, review your book. But that one's a pretty easy question. C. And then we're not really going to worry about C. Like I previously said in this the first video, talked about the most important stuff I want you to know. Yeah, know a little bit about type A, or type A through D and learn helplessness. But this is the crux of the lecture that I want you to focus on. So that's really all I have for you for chapter 12. As I always say at the end of this video, make sure you're reviewing your book and reviewing your PowerPoints and going through these lectures. But if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. Have a good day.